Baseball is dead.
Rest in peace.
It is a Monday episode. It's a special episode today because we are going to be doing our Hall of Fame ballots are today. Joseph, did you bring your Hall of Fame ballot?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, brother. Yeah, you did. So we all have our Hall of Fame ballots today. Not a ton of news and notes really to get into. So I did kind of crack my knuckles and I was like, how can we fill some time here today? And I was like, well, I think we can come up with a new segment. So I was thinking, how do we get the whole team involved? Because Family Feud is like sometimes people have to sit out, guess that player is only for one person. How do we get a team exercise going? So the segment that I thought, it's a game. It's a game. I don't know that we have a title for it, but I'll give you the concept for it. The number of things involved can vary. It can be 4, it can be 6, it can be 10. So you, the participants, all 3 of you will be participating. You're going to need to write down the things that I say.
What?
Because the segment, you are going to be blindly ranking these things. It could be players. It could be teams. I could be, for an example, giving you a list of World Series winners. Blindly rank these World Series winners or these players or these teams currently. You will have to work together to come to an agreement on your, it's not 3 separate lists. It is one list. So you will be debating amongst each other to come to an agreement on a final list to blindly rank these things.
And how do we win? How do we win?
Yeah, how do we
you
win?
have to come to an agreement.
This is like a multi-managerial fantasy champion.
You guys have to convince each other of your arguments, and someone has to say, "All right, fine. That goes above this. Fine. That I'm fine with that being at number 2 instead of number 3."
Yeah, but what's
That's
the win?
a good idea, Jared.
What's the win? How do I get the W?
As a team, you get the win if you can agree on the list.
Okay, I see.
You guys come up, you blindly rank the list. I'm going to make them difficult. So you win if you can all agree that that's the list that it should be.
Okay.
You have 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes.
Okay.
To debate amongst yourselves.
All right.
So you're going to need to. I know Dallas is a pen and paper guy. I use the notes app on my laptop, but so you're going to want to keep track of the subjects on the list and then see if you take that first minute to create your own list, see if you have the same list. And then if you have different lists, you're going to have to debate amongst yourselves to create one final list. And if you can't do that, you lose.
Okay. I accept.
Dallas seems pissed.
Yeah, not happy about this.
No, this is where Dallas would have struggled in elementary or middle school. You know, this is why we're going to come through and we're going to work as a team, and he can't be that lone stallion that he likes to be.
Yeah. This is when I say, let's go to the kickball field and let's do it that way. Oh,
well
I like that way.
Well,
yeah.
So you're going to give us these names of these people. That's how the blind ranking works, right?
Correct.
Cannot. Yeah. So you're going to give us the subject.
You don't know the category in advance.
Stupid names and
you don't know the category in advance. You don't know the names in advance.
All right.
Yeah.
We're gonna do great. 3 of us.
Yeah. I'm starting with the classic. So yeah, good luck to you guys when we get to that segment. So where would you guys like to begin? I know where I'd like to begin, and that's talking about underdog because it's the greatest time of the year again. Football playoffs are almost here, right? That's next week.
That's right.
Next week.
That's right.
Yep. them boys are rolling in hot. It's time to get back to the glory days and start raising them Lombardi trophies, dacking the boys, slinging the pigskin across the gridiron. Let's go, them boys.
They just got smacked by the Durs, man. Embarrassed.
What was the score?
By the backup. Durs won by like 2 or something. Last second fucking touchdown. Marcus Mariota. Thank you for coming.
Damn.
Sorry, Cowgirls.
Wow. He did them like that. Joe, give me an NFL team. I'll tell you the quarterback.
How about the fucking Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Ooh, that is Brian Fitzpatrick. No?
Yep, Brian Fitzpatrick.
Is that not?
Yeah, for sure. He's one of them. Yeah, but they got multiple. So
is that a guy? Is that a real player?
Brian Fitzpatrick? No.
I mean, maybe you just blindly name somebody in the league, but it's not a quarterback on the Bucs or anywhere else.
Fitzpatrick Magic. What was that guy's first name?
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Ryan.
He's a commentator.
Okay. Ryan Fitzpatrick. Patrick.
Did he ever play for the Bucs?
I don't think.
Hell yeah.
Did he?
He's still on the team.
I would have said no. I would have said no on him playing for the Bucs. I'm going to look it up now.
My brain is telling me like all the failed Jets
he
quarterbacks.
did 2 years. 2 years.
Oh, see? Fuck you. I know more football than you. Yeah.
Well, yes, you you can have that win. He retired in 21 though. That was his last year.
Where is it? That's for me.
I think you having trouble finding the button was the dramatic pause that win deserves.
I told you I got to reorganize all this over here. I'm gonna have to take a day to redo the soundboard for 2025. It's just got to happen. It's got to happen. It's got to be more efficient. It's got to be more convenient. But you know what is efficient and convenient? It's the Underdog Fantasy app. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by making picks on Underdog. Win up to 1,000 times your money by choosing higher or lower on your favorite player's stats like touchdowns, passing yards, and more. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward and signing up is even easier. Just head on over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code Jared. That's Jared. And Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick entry, plus up to $1,000 when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Jared to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. I know we're going to see Brian Fitzpatrick memes on the internet after this one, but it is what it is, brother. I was close enough. I was off by a couple of years, but I was there. All right. Well, I think the Dodgers have found a way to have more than the allotted number of roster spots. How do they keep signing players and they just keep adding big name players? Like, I mean, I don't want to go and say Hassan Kim is like a huge name, but he's a very good player and they just keep adding players. How do they keep doing it?
Because they have created what I talked about. I don't know how many months ago.
Yeah.
You've created a destination. That's why people are so pissed off, is because nobody has a team or a vibe surrounding their team like the Dodgers apparently do, where all of the good players feels like would be more than willing to take a little bit of a haircut just to be a part of it now. Like, fuck yeah, Dodgers I'm in. Yep, sure. What do you need? Where do you want me to play? Yep, no problem. It feels like they are in a position now where, and we've used this analogy multiple times in different scenarios, but collecting the Infinity Stones and, all right, so you've got your Infinity Stones. Now you're just like starting to decorate it with like encrusted stones and encrusted pebbles everywhere. Like, oh, something shiny here, something shiny here. This is what the Dodgers understand that they're going to need moving forward is the depth. They've been down this road, but it feels like they are acquiring anybody and everybody who is worth a look in free agency. They're like, yep, we'll take them.
Seriously. Like, that's what it feels like. The
Conforto deal.
They're able to take flyers on players that would be the big move for other teams.
Well, did you see what they're saying? Teoscar had $8 million a year more on other teams and said, fuck it, I'm going to go to the Dodgers for $8 million less.
Absolutely.
Something like that.
I mean, it's just you think about sustained winning though, like what are you here for? And that right there, Joey, that sounds like a decision that's been made by a guy who, I'm going to have my money. And if that's the case, this is what's important to me. Being able to potentially be where I just was for the next 4 years, 5 years. What's his deal? 3 years?
Kim's?
Teo's?
3 years.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Teo's.
I thought it was 3 years.
3 years. So for Teo, it's, I just left a World Series, or I was just a part of a World Series championship run. I've got my money. I will get my money. I just got it. And if that means I get to stay here and experience what I just experienced, buddy, quality of life. And this is why we always talk about like how they evaluate things and how they spend money as opposed to how other people spend money is different. So to him, $8 million might just be a number where he's like, yeah, no, I knew if it was like within a $10 million range, I was going to go here. And that's what the Dodgers represent, is a place where you're talking about $8 to $10 million worth of difference between offers for your services. And it was a very quick, yep, going back. Like it wasn't even a thought.
As it relates to Kim, like I'm kind of torn because it does seem like the rich getting richer, but simultaneously, like the terms of his deal are what they are. And if he was a bidding war type of player, it seems to me that he would be getting more than 3 years and $12.5 million. So it's like, if he had signed with X other team, would it feel the same as if he's signing with the Dodgers because of all of the reasons that we've outlined all offseason that you guys just ran through? I think probably not. But why I am so interested in the acquisition is because it seems like they have him, at least currently, earmarked for the role they tried Kevin Biggio at. And if that's the role that we're talking about, that's like the bar to clear is actually quite low, I would think. And based on all the scouting reports and everything I can find about this guy, like we'll see what sort of impact he makes with the actual bat, but his speed appears to be a game-changing element to his game. So that, to me, like just throwing a game-changing speedster into the depth chart of the Dodgers, not that they lack speed as a roster, but like that specific sort of player, that to me just makes them like even more of a situationally interesting team in their title defense.
But a down year for Kim is like a 2.5 win season.
Well, he's good at defense. He was a Gold Glove shortstop in Korea.
So Joey,
and then weirdly got moved to second base and got 3 Gold Gloves at second base too.
That's where his value comes in my opinion, here for the Dodgers, is you have a team, a world championship team, who is trying to figure out what they're going to do with Mookie Betts, right? What sort of commit? What's that?
Trade him.
What sort of commitment are we going to make to Mookie Betts defensively? What sort of commitment are we asking Mookie Betts to make to us consistently? And if you have a guy who in Kim that you can move around and it's a matter of alleviating guys because you think that's part of the game plan, then that's another tool in his tool belt. That's just another thing that he provides. And when you can pay the premium for the depth that the Dodgers are acquiring, this is what it's like to be in that perfect spot, that prime position where I have the ability to overpay. And if I need to do that in areas that really help supplement what we've got going on, I'll do that, because on the flip side of that, I've got guys willing to take $8 to $10 million worth of discounts to come back and be a part of what we got going on. So it sort of balances itself out. You can go and overpay for a utility guy because you know that another dude who you're going to be penciled in is willing to take a bit of a haircut for you.
So did they say they want him to play second base or shortstop, or they just not say?
I think he's going to get a lot of work at second base.
So then what becomes of Gavin Lux at this point? Is that,
I mean, I think he was announced as the super utility fit currently, though, right? Like, I don't think there has been any mention that he is a starting player at X position. So I think the answer to what happens to Gavin Lux, at least as of this recording, is that Gavin Lux is the starting second baseman. I think this guy, Kim, moves all over, and to the point about potentially being a defensive impact at multiple positions, like, that sounds like a perfect player for their roster in 2025. It also allows them the flexibility that if they wanted to deal Gavin Lux or got an offer that intrigued them, then presumably they could do that too. So, roster flexibility in game and roster flexibility in terms of future transactions.
I mean, you don't have Conforto playing every day, do you?
I'm not in my head mentally. I don't think Gavin Lux plays every day. I don't think Conforto plays every day. I don't know that
where is Mookie Betts on opening day?
Shortstop.
So
if Conforto's not playing every day, who's playing every day?
No, I think he is I think he is the starting left fielder.
Yeah,
Michael
it's
Conforto.
Edmund, Conforto, and Teoscar. That's your outfield.
Correct. I thought you meant is he giving you 150 plus games? I would bet no, given a wide variety of factors. But if you're asking me, is he the starting player? I think yes, absolutely.
How do you like that outfield then?
I think it's fine.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the appropriate answer. It's like it's fine. Like when you think of the Dodgers, you think, man, there's got to be a guy at every position. Like Mookie Betts at shortstop changes just the feel of the entire team. Like when you have a superstar in your outfield, even if it's just one guy out there, it gives the team a different feel. Like Mookie Betts is not a shortstop. It's weird. Like,
he doesn't even need to be shortstop now because they have fucking 4 shortstops. You count Tommy Edman playing infield. Any one of these guys.
I think they've committed to him as the shortstop, though. I think they said that.
Yeah. So that's your outfield, Mookie Betts.
Okay, but they committed to him as a shortstop last year.
But you're right. But I think the announcement was made when it was, because he was presumably looking for that assurance and that level of awareness as to what his plan would be for 2025. And I think they're building the roster not to say that he's going to give them 162 games at shortstop. Nobody really needs that out of this roster. That's the beauty of the Kim acquisition. That's the beauty of having previously acquired and extended Tommy Edman, that you can mix and match a little bit here. But I think to Jared's point about the outfield, I would agree that in some ways that's the most underwhelming part of the roster, but we're also talking about, how many wins above replacement are we probably getting out of those starting 3 players? Like 10? Like that's awesome for the
combination of those.
Yeah.
And because the other idea is the production that you're going to get. I think as baseball fans, we have been conditioned to expect certain levels of production from certain positions on the field. We understand that the production comes from the plate, but you also have certain expectations set for a corner infielder, for a corner outfielder, right? As opposed to a second baseman or the offensive expectations of a catcher. So, the Dodgers just really are in the perfect position to have a lot of really good players and a lot of good players that provide depth that would allow all of those players to seemingly find landing spots and find days off. And when you think about your overall, like when you're playing MLB The Show and it's, what's my best lineup here? My best lineup that I can put together. It just feels like there's not a ton of drop off when you are starting to mix and match this lineup, because you know where the bread is buttered. You know where you're going to eat in this lineup. But everybody else in this lineup, they have an appetite too. They can eat too.
It's just crazy to me that we're talking about a 5 to 6 win player in 2022 and 2023 who I remember him being someone that the Red Sox fans were like, we need to trade for. Like he was going to be like the impact player that they would trade for, or to like replace Xander Bogaerts and all that. And now he's just a complimentary piece on the Dodgers. Like we're talking about like which position does he fit in to play every day? Like, he can play 150, 155 games, and I'm sure he's going to get his at bats and he'll be out there a lot. But as we're looking at the roster, he's not in he doesn't have a position to play every day.
Well, he just quickly got reduced to his one speed skill very quickly. It was, he's fast, and the Dodgers could really utilize that too. And it's like, well, that's not all he's capable of, but if you're thinking about how he fits in and what the most desirable impact that he can have outside of his defensive flexibility would be being able to put him on the base path. And so I think it's a bit unfair that players sort of get reduced to that. But when you're having a conversation about the depth and the titan that is the Dodgers, I think it's a fair conversation.
It's crazy. You got Max Muncy playing third base. I mean, what a team. What a team. I think what Joe's tweet went viral the other day, like the best 9-man rotation in baseball history.
I mean, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. God bless them. God bless the Dodgers. This next story, there was someone that I wanted to dial up for this one. There was an expert, so to speak, on the matter because Charlie Morton has signed with the Baltimore Orioles.
Hello.
RDT, Orioles expert over at Barstool Sports. We just got to the part of our show where we're just about to discuss the Orioles signing 53-year-old Charlie Morton. Let's start with Corbin Burnes. Did you think the Orioles were going to retain Corbin Burnes? Or, I mean, I feel like you're more realistic.
No, I mean, I kind of thought the longer it went that they had a better shot than I originally had thought. But we knew during the season, his wife had twins last year. He was flying home to Phoenix, where his wife and kids now live, 3 young kids. He was flying home after every start to be with them, which is perfectly fine. And then he would fly back before his next start. So it's obvious that he wants to be out there. So if we all knew that. I'm sure the Orioles front office knew it. But no, I mean, we kind of knew that he was going to go somewhere. I thought it was going to be West Coast. I didn't think it would be the Diamondbacks. I don't think anyone did, but they popped up late. But no, I mean, it would have been nice to get him back. I definitely, you want a guy of his caliber, but no, I didn't think he was ever going to come back unless they really blew him away or he got, no real offers that he wanted. He got one to stay home and, good for him. Now he's a 30-minute ride home and can have a nice home cooked meal.
So then what's the deal with this new Orioles ownership? Like I thought they were going to come in. I don't think that it would have taken $100 million extra dollars for Corbin Burnes to choose not just the Orioles, but any East Coast team. But are you surprised at the inactivity of the Baltimore Orioles this winter? I mean, Charlie Morton, no disrespect, great big league pitcher. He's obviously at the end of his career here. This might even be his last stop. Who knows? Are you disappointed with the inactivity of the O's?
Yeah, definitely. So far, I mean, it's still a long off season and the Burnes trade was made in January last year. And, they traded this is going way back, but they traded for Adam Jones and Chris Tillman in February. So, the off season's not over, but yeah, we definitely thought, Orioles fans definitely thought we would have, a couple more new faces outside of Gary Sanchez, Tyler O'Neill, Sagano from Japan, and now old man Charlie. It's been kind of frustrating because again, we've never been big spenders at the winter meetings, and we thought we had a chance to, and nothing materialized, and it just kind of went from there. You're watching the other teams, the Red Sox are making moves, the Yankees are making moves, and it's them in Toronto who are, quote, all in and involved on, they're talking and interested in every free agent, but they're not really doing anything. So you can't really hang those banners that you're trying. But, yeah, it's definitely been frustrating. And even though, the offseason is not over and they could go out and trade for Castillo tonight, or they can, go get Dylan Cease tomorrow or something like that. But yeah, it's been frustrating so far.
And you mentioned those two names. Is that kind of what Orioles fans are thinking right now? Like you guys are looking at Cease and what was the other one? Castillo. Like that's where your pivot has gone to from like a fan base perspective.
I mean, Cease was always, they've been rumored the last 2 years, and now he's kind of the last one left. But the thing is, if you go and trade for him, you're doing the exact same. You're running the Corbin Burnes play again, which is you're trading for a guy who's in the last year of his deal. And this time next year, we're going to be having the same conversations if they don't sign him to an extension. And you can't keep trading these prospects away for 1 year guys and then letting them walk because you're you're coming away with nothing at the end of it. So it's, he's been one of the sexy names linked, and I think he's kind of the last big name left out there that the Orioles could go and get. And Castillo's been floated out there a couple times recently. The Mariners are looking for younger hitters, and the Orioles have plethora of that. So, I know on MLB Network, Morosi was saying it, and Harold Reynolds and all that. So I don't know. It seems like those two guys, are the ones that the Orioles have circled. If there's another guy, then it's something that we haven't heard of, or that, they're kind of moving in silence on.
So you're not at the point where, because I saw some Orioles fan discourse on Twitter that I thought was a little overreactionary in terms of like the window. The window is wide open. I mean, the young talent that the Orioles have is plentiful, but they do need to supplement it with veteran talent. Are you concerned at all? Like, because it's like, yeah, like you've got your young core very much established and in place, but you do need the Corbin Burns, the Dylan Cease, the Luis Castillo. You need those guys. Like, if you're going to contend for a World Series, is there any concern on your behalf of like, are we actually going to go all in? Like, it's nice to have the rebuild pay off and we have all this young talent people are excited about, but is the organization actually going to go all in and spend to kind of complete the roster in order to contend for a championship?
I mean, I think they are. I don't know why they wouldn't. Again, I mean, David Rubenstein's 75 or 76 years old. You don't buy a team that you grew up loving in your 70s just to kind of watch it, win 88 games or something like that, and just be like, oh, well, this was fun owning, And he's openly said it. Like, I want to accelerate the winning and get things going, because he knows better than anyone that it's been a long, long time since the Orioles were relevant and have won anything of significance. So I do think they're going to do it. I don't think he's going to just throw money out to anyone and everyone. And that's what the overreaction you talked about is. These fans think, oh, well, he's rich, so he's, there were people just being like, give Corbin Burns $300 million. What do you mean? Like, what are you doing? Like, that's not how owners work. It's not the show. You don't just do that. Like, it's not how it works in real life baseball. But no, I think they are, going to do stuff to put the team in a position to contend and win, and hopefully it's soon and next year and this year and all that. I mean, DraftKings still has them at, I think, 89.5 wins. I think the Yankees were at like 92 or 93. So that's, they're still right there in the division. There are people who are already giving up on the season and calling the Orioles frauds and unserious and blah, blah, blah. And those are the people that I'm going to keep an eye out. And when they ask for playoff tickets or when they're complaining about opening day prices, then, we'll go from there. But no, I think they're still going to try. And again, I mean, this is the young core that you got, and you got to start re-signing some of them too to make sure that they're here for a long time.
RDT, Justin here. I think you're a pretty sober fan in terms of our local, correspondence and stuff like that we reach out to. But I got to get, that's why I'm asking this. I got to get the pulse broadly. At this time last year, the Orioles had the Corbin Burns acquisition going into the season. There was the Jackson Holiday excitement. There was the overall excitement about the young players coming up position player wise. Fast forward to this time this season, if your excitement level was a 10 at that point last year, what is your optimism, your excitement level entering 2025?
I'd say I'm at about a 7-7.
Okay.
Obviously, the win, the lack of moves in the offseason and even the moves that have been made. Again, Gary Sanchez, when they signed him, I was out at a bar and I legitimately laughed out loud and was like, oh, that's great. That's funny. Like, this is good. But it's the wind has been taken from our sails a little bit, especially, I mean, I don't know what it was, but I woke up the night that Corbin Burns signed, because he signed at like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. Yeah. I woke up at like 3:30 and had text and saw Twitter, and I was like, oh, all right, well, I'm up for the rest of the night. And so that kind of ruined that night. But, I mean, it's we don't have that Jackson Holiday. We're going to see him in spring training with all these guys. Like, he's on the team. All those guys are on the team. So yeah, the excitement's been dimmed a little bit. I mean, I'm still pumped. I just booked my flight down to spring training and Airbnb and all that stuff. So I'm still excited. It's definitely not as much as last year, but yeah, it's kind of a kick in the nuts just watching the stuff that they haven't done so far.
That's what I think it is. It's the stuff that they haven't done, because if I were an Orioles fan, I'm not thinking to myself that Corbin Burns is coming back. So it's more just, what's the pivot plan? And their pivot plan so far has been Charlie Morton. Because, I mean, I like Tyler O'Neill. The Red Sox had him last year. I kind of gave you the lowdown. He's going to hit some bombs if he stays healthy, which has been an issue of his in the past. I don't know how he has 2 Gold Gloves. He's a horrible defender. Horrible. He does the janitor throw where he does like the cartwheel in midair throwing home. He will throw 0 runners out. I'm telling you right now, he will fucking heave ho, cartwheel in the air, throw back into the infield every time the ball is hit to him and there's a runner on the move. He will do that. He will throw out 0 base runners doing it. But
it's the Eric Burns move.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it is. But the pitching contingency plan has to be disappointing. Dallas, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to ask, is there any thought to the ownership group maybe figuring out a way to make a commitment to one of these stars, to one of these homegrown players that you have, and that sort of helping them get the ball rolling to making a commitment towards the future? Because it feels like that's been something that has been, I don't want to say on the verge or on the cusp, but like, can we do that? Can we make that commitment? If we can make that commitment, then it starts to feel like we're a little closer to becoming the team that I think your fan base wants them to become.
Absolutely. And I mean, we've talked about that for a while, where it's like, in one hand, would you rather have Corbin Burns for 6 years, or would you rather sign Gunnar, for 9 years? And obviously that's not going to happen because he's a Boris guy, as is Jackson and Corbin was too. And, what's his name? Jordan Westberg. But yeah, I mean, that's what we talked about, where it's like, listen, this offseason can turn around really quick if they announce, hey, we've signed Jordan Westberg to a 7-year, $150 million contract, which I think he would take in a heartbeat, or hey, we've signed Adley Rutschman to an 8-year extension and this, or Grayson, or, some of these guys, a realistic extension. I mean, that would get people pumped, and that's been something that we've been, do what the Braves do, sign those guys when they're young and get them for long term. And again, it's proven it works other places, and the Orioles are, again, they have a plethora of young guys that they can do that with. So if they do that will get people back on track and excited and kind of, you would hopefully, get the ball rolling again. I mean, if Jackson signs or if Westberg signs, why would these guys not want to be here? And why would other players who are free agents be like, you know what? I do want to go play with the Jackson Holiday, or I want to go play with the Jordan Westberg, or, an Adley, someone like that. So yeah, that's another thing. I mean, if they extended one of the young guys, one of the young core, that would get the tide going in the right direction for sure.
All right, RDT. I wish I could say I feel bad for you, but I don't. As a Red Sox fan, I know that we traded for Garrett Crochet, but I mean, it's like, unless you pay him, what does it matter? What's the next move? There isn't one. Alex Bregman still just sitting out there waiting for the Red Sox to call him. They don't. So
have you sent like a text or like have you sent like an edible arrangement to him or something, trying to grease the wheels? Or
no, we don't.
Not on his.
No, we don't talk at all
since the home run.
Yeah, no, we don't really communicate.
Gotcha. Well, I'll be up in Boston. I want to come up for that weekend series. So
yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to take in a game at Fenway Park with you to watch the Red Sox and Orioles, 2 AL East rivals who haven't tried much this offseason to contend. That would be a treat for me.
That would be good. You got to come down too to Camden.
I know. I miss it.
Last year.
I miss it. Yeah, I haven't been to Camden in a while. I actually, you know what I might do is I might instead of going for Red Sox Orioles, maybe I'll look and see when the A's are in town. We can have a little rendezvous with the
Aquarium.
boys.
Jimmy's.
Oh,
Aquarium.
yeah. I love the
Yeah.
harbor. The harbor is, yeah. Who doesn't love Baltimore? What a place. You know,
The best.
Edgar
You can
Allan
watch The
Poe's
Wire.
house. Crab cakes.
I've still
had
never
one.
seen a game at Camden Yards.
Oh, let's
No.
do
What?
it. Let's do it.
Hey.
When
I
yeah,
get the
yeah.
same
We're not
reaction every single time I bring this up. It's got to
When
be
the-
the 10th time I've said this, but
when the A's are in town, let's take the train to Baltimore.
I would love
And
to. I'd love to.
yes, let's do that.
Because I love
Let's all
crab
get
cakes
together.
personally, and I love everything that they have to offer culinarily. So I'm
Yeah.
totally game.
Yeah, they
We'll
have
do the Babe Ruth Museum.
Babe Ruth
Yeah,
Museum.
buddy.
Yep, I'll take a piss in there, and then there's
in
a
the
California
bathroom. Yeah, I'm
pizza
sure there's
kitchen.
restroom facilities.
It's right there on the water. It's beautiful.
A what?
I don't think
It's
so.
a California pizza kitchen.
We are not going to eat at the California Pizza Kitchen on the water. I can assure you of that.
Well, then all right, fine. You're not
I will-
invited.
No, I will pay. I will pay
No,
for you to eat somewhere
Yeah,
else.
You're not invited to the dinner, Jared. That's that. You can go to CPK. We'll
Yeah, I'm
catch you
going
after.
to this. Shout out to the CPK boys, by the way. Trent, YP, the CPK boys. That was a legendary moment in time. But all right, RDT, thank you so much. Shout out your Twitter. That's so fucking confusing, and I tell you
here
to
we
change it
go.
every goddamn time that you come on the show.
Here we go. EDITTI 22.
That's fucking
Not the
so
word.
stupid. It's so stupid.
It is, but
Yeah.
oh well.
Please
Oh,
change it.
all right.
I'm never having you on again if you don't change it.
Okay. I get like a random tweet every now and then from some random Red Sox fan who's like, "You still haven't fucking changed your Twitter name. Jared asked you to do it all the time."
Yeah, you gotta change.
Sorry.
You gotta change.
I don't even think the guy follows me because he like puts in the work to go find me
Good.
and then we'll tweet me. So
That's a loyal minion.
he is. He's one of your little cronies.
That's right.
All right. Now I got to go shovel some more snow.
Good luck with that.
I love you guys.
Love you
Goodbye.
guys. Bye. That's RDT. Yeah, I mean, I like I said, I wish I could feel bad for the Orioles fans. I just don't. Like, my situation sucks too. Sucks way worse. It also sucks if you're losing your hair. Man, if you've lost your hair, it doesn't mean you can't find it again. Try Hims Hair Loss Solutions, and you'll be joining hundreds of thousands of subscribers who found their hair again. Right, Dallas?
Yeah.
Hims provides you with convenient and quality access to a range of hair loss treatments that work all from the comfort of your couch. Hims makes treating hair loss simple with doctor-trusted options and clinically proven ingredients. Again, like finasteride and minoxidil that can regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. Something funny, Dallas? You look in the mirror? Choose from
Nope.
personalized chewable oral spray and serum treatments to find what works best for you. The process is simple and 100% online. So there are no uncomfortable doctor visits. Answer a few questions and a medical provider will determine if treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your treatment is sent directly to you for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. Hims has hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, and they can help you get your confidence back too. With visibly thicker and fuller hair. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/BID. That's HIMS.com/BID for your personalized hair loss treatment options. hims.com/BID. Shout out to RDT. I know I saw T-Dog tweeted out that the Red Sox are a preferred destination for Nolan Arenado. I saw that.
If it's the year of T, does that mean that that's going to come true? Or does it mean it's not going to come true? Or are those things not related at all?
I think it could come true. I think it could because
How would you feel about it?
Oh, I love it. I know that some Red Sox fans are like, oh, we don't want it. Duh, duh, duh. Why?
Could this be a matter of the Red Sox? Could they find themselves in a tough spot on a Friday night? Like, oh shit. I completely forgot that I made plans with so-and-so.
With Bregman, you mean? Well, they haven't
They
made
just
an offer
committed.
from allegedly.
They've just committed. Yeah, allegedly. And that's cute. But my whole point is, could the Red Sox find themselves in a spot where, are both of these players, are they willing to accept what's been offered? Now we got to pick.
There's no offer, Dallas. So no, I'm not afraid of that situation playing out. I think, if you read between the lines, Alex Cora was on with Robbie Hyde on his YouTube channel the other day, and he didn't say his name, but he was making reference to JD Martinez's situation a few years ago where I think Scott Boras wanted $200 million for JD. The Red Sox were like, how's 110? And Boras was like, we want 200. And he's like, that's cool. How about 110? And then they eventually got him for the price that they wanted. Dave Dombrowski put his nuts on the table and said, I don't think that you have a better offer than that. And they waited it out, and then they took the Red Sox offer. JD signed with the Red Sox, and history happened from there. With Bregman, though, it's different because I think the Red Sox are trying to call Bregman's bluff and say, we don't think that you have, $200 million in hand. And so we're going to wait it out until we get our price, how we value you. And the Bregman camp is like, well, we're not bluffing. We have offers from multiple teams, actually, like offers that I'd be more than happy to take, but let's see what your offer is. And the Red Sox are like, well, we don't think that you have offers, so we're not going to make you one. And the Red Sox are very dumb in this circumstance, I believe, because
that would make no sense, right? Like when you say that out loud, that would make zero sense. Zero. Not like kinda. That would make no sense to not have an offer out there. It's one thing.
The Red Sox, you mean?
Yes.
I agree with you. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense. Like we're not going to offer you anything.
Yeah. So what makes it make even less sense, Dallas, is there are plenty of, because I know that the narrative is like, oh, the Red Sox are cheap and John Henry won't spend and blah, blah, blah. But the Red Sox have made competitive offers to other free agents that have chosen to sign elsewhere. So it's not like they're not making players offers. They are. Mm-hmm. Those players are just signing elsewhere. As far as Bregman goes, they're just not making an offer. And I don't know why. So then if they're making offers that are competitive for other players, but those players have deemed the Red Sox a situation that they do not want to be a part of, and if the rumor mill circulating is that Alex Bregman would not only be a great fit for Boston in terms of what he can bring to the clubhouse, but skill set wise, a great fit, then what are we doing? Then what do we do? If the Red Sox want him and they believe that they can be competitive based on the offers that they believe he's receiving, then why would you not just match an offer that you think is out there that he feels he's being lowballed with? If all things are equal, you've landed your man. I don't know that he's being lowballed though, Dallas. I think he's getting like competitive offers elsewhere, and he's just waiting for everyone that has expressed interest to be like, all right, well, here's our offer. I'm not just putting this on the Red Sox. Like there's probably like 5 teams that have expressed interest. Not all have made offers, and I'm assuming the Red Sox are not one of them. But I don't know. I mean, if I'm the Red Sox, now you're just looking at the list. It's the list of teams. Who, right. Okay, if you're Alex Bregman, right? And it's sort of like the conversation we were just having about the money, like with Teoscar Hernandez. He's willing to take the discount for Bregman. He has an idea of the number he wants, and he's getting a feel for the teams that are willing to compete in that ballpark. But from there, he's making a decision based on what we've talked about this entire time, which is legacy. So now we have Bregman's a Boras guy, and Teoscar is not. But the situation with no offer and Bregman wanting to solidify a legacy of sorts, he's walking he's trying to find the balance between the destination that will help solidify his legacy as well as compensation. Right?
Those are the two things that he's trying to marry. I got to get the bag, but I want to get the bag in a place that I'm not just getting the bag. I want to get a bag in a place where I can be competitive as
Toronto.
well. Yeah, and so what do those other teams, what do their offers and their status or trajectory, what does that look like? That's the decision that Bregman is mulling over right now.
Yeah.
That's I don't want to say that's all, but that's it. If you have a really good idea of who's in on this, now you're just trying to figure out, find the sweet spot. Who can get as close to the sweet spot as possible? And that's money and legacy.
Yeah, I mean, we looked at the ballpark numbers. He crushes at Fenway.
Yeah.
And he doesn't hit well at Comerica, and he doesn't hit well in Toronto. And you look at the future of the Blue Jays, and you're like, well, that doesn't look great. Like in 2 years, Vladdy's gone, Bo's gone. Like, what am I doing?
So-
I'm just me and George up here. All right, cool.
So
I'm just playing out the rest of my career then.
you remember what I said about Breslow? I told you what he was doing. You think Craig doesn't know what Bregman's capable of in that building? You think they
Of
don't
course.
know? And you can almost let that play itself out without being involved.
Well, don't
Let
overplay
Alex
your hand.
Bregman. What's that?
Well, don't overplay your hand, because at the end of the day, if you want the player, which it doesn't seem like Breslow does. I know Cora does. Sam Kennedy does. Those are the reports. But if you're Bregman, and it's not like you're choosing between the Blue Jays and the Red Sox. The Tigers are in the mix here, and I have to believe they have a very competitive offer on the table. And if that's the case, you can link back up with AJ Hinch. You're joining a young, exciting upstart team that just made it to the playoffs this year. Legacy's fine, but it's like, why can't you build a legacy in Detroit?
Are they as prepared? Are they as prepared to do what he feels some of the other offers that are coming in are prepared to do? That's where he's finding the balance. Like, all right. And that's why I said the responsibility of Alex Bregman going to the Detroit Tigers. Is this a difference where they're saying to him, you're the guy who helps push us over? Or is he going to be able to find a place where he's not necessarily the needle mover, but adding him really solidifies your chances to do great things?
Obviously I'm on the side of pro signing Bregman. I also think, to play devil's advocate, if I'm trying to put myself in the mindset of an owner, or maybe a GM who has to sell an owner on a particular path, I think it is very easy to delude, I'm not quite sure, but convince yourself that trading for former superstar Nolan Arenado, who in your head maybe can take advantage of the Fenway, the monster, in the same way that Bregman can, maybe, and getting a bounce back season out of him while you wait for these highly touted prospects that we've outlined to matriculate up to the major leagues and show whether they're ready to make an impact or not in this team to fully form. I think, and one of those is $200 million, and one of those is what portion of a contract are you willing to take on, essentially. That to me it's not the preferred path. I also think if that's your mindset, it's easy to convince yourself that that's a viable path.
To that point, Jay Hay,
even if you're worse off.
To that point, wouldn't you then say, but look at what we have coming. Look at what we have coming.
And I think there's enough playing time for all of these people. I think getting overly concerned about where is Campbell and Anthony going to get their 500 or 600 plate appearances in 2025 going to come from. I suspect that if they force the issue enough, that's going to take care of itself. And you need lots of good players, as we just outlined with the Dodgers, to get yourself through a regular season. And I think maybe Bregman not being the 100% perfect fit positionally, I think is okay, because I still think the Red Sox we need good player mode, particularly given the division that they participate in.
And I also think that not signing Bregman could potentially impact future free agents' decisions. Like, are you guys trying? Like, are you going for it? Like, am I just going to sign here and rot? Like, they could be the Blue Jays, where it's like, all right, like, why would I go there? You know, like, you don't want to be an undesirable, you don't want to be the antithesis of the Dodgers, an undesirable location to be. And I'm not saying that the Red Sox are knocking on the door of that. Like they could very well have a winning record. That doesn't mean they'll make the playoffs. I think that they could have a winning record next year. But there's a big difference between finishing a few games above 500 and not making the playoffs and being a legitimate threat in the American League. And I think Bregman makes you that.
Well, and when you are a front office that is in some senses stepped in it in terms of the messaging from 2 consecutive off seasons to the fan base about what your ultimate intentions were, I do think that there's an erosion of trust that happens if, following, the 23 to 24 off season and the, big spenders and all that sort of stuff, starting with the Juan Soto Association and the hopes that were tied to that, even if I think they were accurately viewed as long shots, to end up, what are they at, $50-something million in terms of free agent spending this offseason, I saw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That to me is a tough sell.
I would never trust them again. Like if I fell for it again this winter, I'll be very pissed. Like I know that things were different in terms of how they were speaking and acting, but the execution wasn't there if they don't end up with Bregman. And I know that whatever, some fans aren't thrilled about the idea about Nolan Arenado. He's 2 years removed from his best season ever in his career. So I know that last year was a down year. People are talking about him like he's 39 years old and it's just he's trying to take a 1-year deal for a paycheck. The dude is very motivated. I very much believe he can be a net positive for the Red Sox if it ends up being Nolan. But they have to do something. If they go into spring training where they're this is it, that they've made their last move, it's going to be very ugly. It's going to be very, very, very ugly. And I will not be defending it to the old fucks on Twitter who think that I just carry water for the team. I will be very vocal about how pissed off I am.
If people think you carry water for the Red Sox, I have to admit that, or I would have to think that you are as freely critical of them as any Boston area blogger or podcast person or radio person or TV entity. But if that's what you're getting shit for, that's just proof that nobody's ever going to be happy.
Yeah. Well, they think just because I did something with Nesson, that means I can't say anything bad about the Red Sox. And when things are bad, I talk my shit big time.
Yeah.
So anyways, I feel like now's a good time to debut our new segment. Which it sucks because I guess the snowstorm knocked out Joe's internet, so Joe's not here anymore. So it will be between Dallas and Jay to be able to come together on this one.
I'm ready to work together.
I think you guys are going to be great at this. I think you guys are going to be very good at this. But we'll see if the fellas can come together one last time. What do you think? You can do it, Dallas?
I don't know what the fuck you're doing right now. Oh.
I'm going to put 5 minutes on the clock.
I need a timer. I need to see this.
You can trust me. It's here. It's here. I've got it. 5 minutes on the clock. Justin Havens, Dallas Braden.
Yes.
Are you ready to write down the names?
Are you ready to write shit down?
Type them. Yes. Blindly rank these all-time pitchers from greatest to least greatest. Clayton Kershaw, Greg Maddux, Randy Johnson, Roger Clemens, Pedro Martinez, and Nolan Ryan. Your 5 minutes begins now.
Okay, what'd you have? Kershaw, Maddux, Johnson, Clemens. Who was the last one?
Pedro and Nolan Ryan. All right, let's take 30 seconds to make our own rankings and see where we're at.
the 30-second mark.
All right. I mean,
all right, I'm ready to talk about it. So
I've
go ahead.
You want to just write my all? So I got Clemens 1, Randy 2, Pedro 3, Maddox 4, Kershaw 5, Nolan 6.
Okay, so we're definitely on the same page with Nolan Ryan being last of this group, so that's a helpful start to the conversation. So my original way I put this was Maddox and Johnson at the top, Pedro and Kershaw kind of on the next, not level, but next ranking, and then Clemens off to the side because I'm open, depending on where you want to go with this, to have him as the best of these pitchers or really anywhere above Nolan Ryan, because I know he gets an asterisk in a way that not everybody does. So what I feel kind of passionately about, I think differently than you do, is that I think, did you have Pedro, where was Pedro, Maddox, and Johnson for you?
1, 2, and 3.
And then Clemens?
Yeah, or no, I had Clemens at 1. Is
okay.
Just off the top of my head, Clemens. 1.
All right, so I think,
but you have him off to the you have him
for me.
fourth.
Well, I think I do. I think I have him. I think I need one of Maddox, Johnson, or Pedro as number 1. And I think I need those. I think I'd prefer those be the top 3 in some order.
Maddox, Johnson, and Pedro.
Yeah.
Whew. Randy. I mean, I would probably go Randy 1 then.
Okay, I can sign up for that. So let's go Unit 1.
Pedro 2.
Pedro 2.
Maddox 3.
Maddox 3.
Clemens.
And then we go Clemens 4.
Kershaw 5.
Kershaw
Nolan 6.
5. Nolan 6. Let me see if I can give my official stamp on that. So 1 Unit, 2 Pedro, 3 Maddox, 4 Clemens, 5 Kershaw, 6 Nolan Ryan.
Yeah.
All right. I think in my heart of hearts, I would prefer that Maddox was 2 and Pedro was 3.
So would I.
Okay.
I didn't know if you had a. I like Maddox slightly better than Pedro.
Yeah, he's got. I think the peaks are close enough where the added bulk for Maddox matters. All right, I'm gonna go. So Unit
he's got
Maddox.
One more, doesn't he have one more Cy Young too than Pedro?
Yeah, Unit Maddox, Pedro, Clemens, Kershaw, Ryan.
Yes, Unit Maddox, Pedro, Kershaw, Clemens, Ryan.
Wait. You have Kershaw Clemens or Clemens Kershaw?
Or Clemens, Kershaw, Ryan. Sorry.
Okay. Clemens, Kershaw, Ryan. I sign off on that.
Okay.
Yes.
The official list is what?
Unit, Maddox, Pedro, Clemens, Kershaw,
Nolan.
Okay. All right. You guys did that in 3 minutes and 48 seconds.
Let's go.
So I think for the next one, we go from 5 minutes to 3 minutes, Jake. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like tightening it up to 3 will add a lot of anger
drama
and discussion.
Yes, because Dallas started to panic at 250. Like when they were like, wait, you had what? At what? So
I love it.
I think we can chop it
good
down.
First run.
Yeah, I think we can chop it down to 3 minutes moving forward. And maybe, I don't know, I feel like, because today I started with 4, and then at the end I added 2 more to make it 6. So I think when we add in more names potentially and less time, that's when we get into the Dallas zone.
Well, so Jay Hayes' beef here, your beef with Roger is the PEDs.
Yeah, I mean, I think statistically, if it's just like pure stats, then Clemens probably has the cleanest number 1 case of this group. But,
undoubtedly.
But I think that, I mean, I'm not like obviously some sort of like PED, like, I don't know. I don't get overly concerned about it, but I do think when I have thought about those 4 pitchers from that era a lot. I mean, you guys know I did a whole video thing on it. Like I have thought about the greatness of those 4 people in the context of history and relative to each other a lot. And I never am totally convinced that I land on the right answer. But if I have to have a tiebreaker between those 4 people, I think that one of them was a rampant PED user who like constantly lied about his PED usage is a decent, like, I think that's a decent tiebreaker. I know he's got the 7 Cy Youngs. I mean, if there was like, to me, these guys are much more comparable to Roger Clemens statistically than any batter is comparable to Barry Bonds that I would be comparing from that era anyway. So is it a bit the same? Yeah. It's like, yeah, if you wanted to tell me, somebody wanted to get on this pod and say Roger Clemens should be number fucking 1, you guys are crazy, then I would be like, yeah, okay, we can just put the PED stuff aside. Clemens is 1, everybody else shifts down the thing.
Well, so what I was just going to say is that's what this list reflects, is because that's why Roger is, he is, and like what we've just done aside, the exercise aside, nobody's better than Roger Clemens. Roger Clemens is the best pitcher that the game has seen. So when we take that and start to factor in other things outside of just production, well, then that's where this list reflects that. So the first 3 guys outside of the production, I can give you, okay, yeah. But when it comes to who's the best pitcher, it's Roger Clemens.
Yeah. Jay, I came up with the idea for the segment. I mean, the name.
Oh, what is it?
How about we call it Wouldn't You Agree?
Yeah.
We'll call it Wouldn't You Agree?
That's the winner. I love it.
Yeah. Wouldn't you agree that Roger Clemens is the best pitcher ever, followed by X, Y, and Z? Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
The only thing I'll push back on, I know we're going to move on, not push back on, but just to add, is that yes, Clemens is the best. I think that's more based on longevity of peak than it is height of peak. Like, I think Maddox, Unit, and Pedro, if we're talking 2 or 3 year runs or 4 to 5 year runs, are probably better than any concentrated run that Roger Clemens probably. But, and that's not, that to me is what that makes me feel better about, like, okay, well, Randy Johnson and Greg Maddux each ran off 4 straight Cy Youngs themselves. You know what I mean? And Pedro Martinez, lots of very smart people make the case that his 99-00 run is the greatest 2-year run that we've ever seen, context appropriate, by a pitcher in basically recent baseball history. So, like, that how you weight those things, to me, there is enough of a gray area to not necessarily put Clemens at 1 and just have the conversation be over. But
yeah. Yep. I think 3 minutes is the perfect amount of time. You guys were basically finishing it up at 3 minutes, or like just under 3 minutes, and Dallas was starting to panic.
Well, no, I mean, we had it done. It was the list was done when you really think about it, outside of just moving Roger from 1 to 4, because Nolan was at the bottom of it, and it was any order for the other 3 at the top. It was just Jay Hay doesn't like the needle.
That's right.
Yeah. I also, I almost, Jay Hay, I want to apologize to the listeners, because I was trying to create a Dallas freakout moment and I didn't get one. So let's just make one. I have won multiple Cy Young awards. Burning time.
Pedro. Oh,
I have won multiple World Series titles.
Roger Clemens.
I have won multiple pitching triple crowns.
Multiple pitching triple crowns. Oh, fuck. John Smoltz.
I have won multiple ERA titles, 5 consecutive.
Jesus, 5 consecutive ERA. Bob Gibson. No.
I have won an MVP.
Clayton Kershaw.
I have 2,396 career strikeouts.
2000. Not CC. Fuck! I got nothing.
It is crazy given how intimate they are.
Yeah.
That he
That's
didn't
true.
get it, right?
Yeah. You didn't make a guess on the last hint. I was going to say I won a Cy Young in my final season at the age of 30.
Oh, wow. Wow. Wow.
Mm.
Wow.
Youngest looking
Apologies.
89-year-old you'd ever seen.
Yeah.
Apologies, Sandy.
Yep. It's too bad. Truly.
It's tough.
You'll get him next time, champ. You'll get him next time. The other hint would have been he's a Hall of Famer. So now we could talk about our own Hall of Fame ballots here.
Oh,
The 2025 BID. I saw anytime that I tweet about like us doing this segment, people are, they'll give anyone a vote. They're not real votes. We don't have real votes. We should have real votes. I think we probably prepare better than 35% of people who have actual votes, maybe.
I mean, if lifetime preparation to have these conversations, man.
Yeah.
It's like what I was born to do. I should have a ballot. Give me a ballot.
You really should, honestly.
Thank you.
You really
Thank
should.
you.
I'm not
That
even
you
joking.
tell me I should is basically like having one.
Yeah, you deserve it. You deserve it. I mean, if I were a voter, I would pay you to do the research so that I could come to the conclusion on what my ballot should be.
One of the very first things I did at ESPN that I'm sure nobody else remembers because who gives a shit, but that I remember doing was putting together like a pamphlet, an email send out for why Tim Raines belonged in the Hall of Fame. It was called Make It Rains.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you.
I mean, in your history, you've probably influenced the vote in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I mean, I've had direct access to actual Hall of Fame voters, and I've had Hall of Fame conversations with them that I hope were convincing on some level. In a lot of cases, whether it was because of me or the general din of the crowd, there have been people who started off as not being voted as Hall of Famers who became Hall of Famers, I think, through general public education, not obviously from me. So I think that's cool.
Before we begin revealing our ballots, I think Jay Hay's a yes. I know I'm a yes. Dallas, did you use all 10 spots?
Yes.
Okay. And just to confirm, Jay Hay, yes. Okay.
Yep. Had to make some tough cuts for sure.
Yeah, me too. I even listed an honorable mention. And I know people are going to be like, how do you vote for this guy, but not that guy? And it's because fuck you. That's why. It's my ballot. That's why. There's no actual justification for it. It's because it's my ballot, and that's what I want my ballot to look like. So without further ado, I voted for him last year. Leading the ballot for me, Alex Rodriguez. 117.6 wins above replacement over 22 seasons, 696 home runs, 3,115 hits, 2,086 RBI, a 930 career OPS, and a 140 career OPS plus. Next up, Carlos Beltran. 70.1 wins above replacement over 20 big league seasons, 435 home runs, 2,725 hits, an 837 OPS for his career, a 119 OPS plus. Third, Manny Ramirez. 69.3 wins above replacement over 19 big league seasons, 555 career home runs, 2,574 hits, a 996 OPS, and a 154 career OPS plus. Next up, another returning votee. 62.7 career WAR for Andrew Jones over 17 big league seasons, 434 home runs, 1,933 hits, an 823 OPS, and a 111 OPS plus. 10 gold gloves, which, by the way, we'll get to this other guy, Ichiro Suzuki. I was surprised because we all talk about the gold gloves for Andrew Jones, was surprised to see that Ichiro has just as many as Andrew Jones. But I digress. Next up, a first time on the ballot, CC Sabathia, the Milwaukee Brewers legend, 62.3 career WAR, 19 big league seasons, 3.74 ERA, 1.16 ERA plus, 251 wins, 3,093 strikeouts for his career, a 126 whip. He did win the Cy Young in 2007, a World Series champion in 2009. Ichiro Suzuki, 60 WAR, 19 seasons, 3,089 hits, a 311 career average, 10 Gold Gloves, 10 All-Star selections, 2 batting titles, the 2001 MVP and Rookie of the Year, 10 200-plus hit seasons, and the single-season hits record. Next up, controversy. Dustin Pedroia, 51.9 career WAR, 14 big league seasons, 1,805 hits, 805 career OPS, 113 OPS plus, 2007 Rookie of the Year, 2008 MVP, 3-time World Series champion, and 4 Gold Gloves. Now, if you look at that, it's a questionable Hall of Fame candidacy. I am voting for him, A, because he's my favorite player, B, because I love Dustin Pedroia, and C, because if it weren't for Manny Machado, he would have the cumulative numbers to be in the Hall of Fame. I truly believe that. He would at least be on the, maybe not first ballot, but like, yeah, he'll get in a few years. Like, he would have had that career if not for Manny Machado. And that, to me, like, I understand. If Dustin Pedroia does not get into the Hall of Fame, I will understand. I will not, make a stink about it and say they got it wrong or whatever. But I am voting for Dustin Pedroia because I believe, had it not been for circumstance out of his control, he would have had the cumulative statistics to be recognized as a Hall of Famer, because at his peak, he was a Hall of Fame player. Next up, Billy Wagner, 422 career saves. I feel like like last year when I had him on the ballot, I had like all the fucking statistics. I'm sure Jay Hay will have all the juicy Billy Wagner nugs for you. This is just surface level stuff. 1,196 career strikeouts in 903 innings. That's crazy. A 2.31 ERA to go along with a 1.87 ERA plus. I did not have this individual on my ballot last year, but I was both the next two guys did not have on my ballot last year, but you guys convinced me with your arguments. Andy Pettitte, 60.2 career WAR, 18 seasons, 256 career wins, 3.85 ERA, 1.17 ERA plus, a 1.35 whip, 2,448 career strikeouts, 5 rings, and 5, he never won it, but 5 top 6 Cy Young finishes, including a runner-up. And then last but not least, Mark Burley, 59.1 career wins above replacement over 16 seasons, 214 wins, a 3.81 ERA, 1.17 ERA plus, 1.28 whip, 14 of his 16 big league seasons, he reached the 200 inning mark, 33 complete games, 10 of those were shutouts. And then my honorable mention, as I mentioned earlier, is Chase Utley. If you vote for Pedroia, how do you not vote for Chase Utley? You're not wrong if you have that argument. If there were 11 spots, it would have went to Chase Utley. He'll probably get my vote next year. It's not that I don't believe that he should be a Hall of Famer. It's just I only had 10 spots, and those were the 10 guys that I wanted to give my vote to. So suck on that if you have an issue with it. I'm going to go Dallas next because Jay Hay as the closer with the nugs that we definitely don't have probably is the icing on the cake that this segment deserves. So Dallas, your ballot.
It's yours, just minus one player.
You don't have Pedroia.
I do not have Pedroia. I slid in Felix.
Oh, okay.
I slid in Felix. And I know Felix is probably an unpopular selection early, first time. That's all right. I mean, what?
It's kind of the same reason that I said for Pedroia. It's like we're talking Hall of Fame peak. We're talking like at their best, if not for injury and whatnot.
Well, and Felix was just, and look, I think this is part of the bias that I have to having a front row seat. And this is what I told you guys when we first started kicking around this ballot a while ago was, I mean, look, I squared off against Felix fucking every 5 days for my entire career. I faced Pedroia, right? I faced Andrew Jones. I faced these guys. I pitched against these guys. I played with some of these guys. Like, so I have a very real taste in my mouth. And I found this exercise interesting because of the Baines meter. And my affinity and the love that I have for Jack Morris and his Hall of Fame candidacy and acknowledgement, right? I don't give a shit after a certain point in time what the numbers tell you. The romance of this game allows me and lends itself to allowing me to falling in love with the importance of these players to their teammates and to their counterparts. And you will be hard pressed in my generation to find anybody tell you that Felix Hernandez is not on their short list of guys that they want in their all-time rotation when we're starting to talk about this group of talent. And just an absolute horse. A horse. You remember when this dude entered the big leagues? 19 years old with Felix the Badass written on his glove. You have to be some kind of a motherfucker to walk into the big leagues with Felix the Badass written on your glove before you've thrown a pitch. And he lived up to every bit of that billing. I mean, we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 straight years of 200 plus innings. You got 5, 6 different all-star acknowledgments in there. You got a Cy Young ERA title, like 2-time ERA title. Felix, the Badass, is the only dude that was not on your ballot that is on my ballot. Everybody else, Jared, I think speaks for themselves. You ran over the numbers. Something I did want to say about Billy Wagner, 186 in the third innings, less than Trevor Hoffman, 104 more than Eck as a reliever. And remember, Billy Wagner, Trevor Hoffman, they were battling in the NL, Wagner having to battle Hoffman for that attention. 798 more innings for Raleigh Fingers as a reliever than Billy Wagner. Bruce Sutter had 139 more innings, and Lee Smith had 386 and a third more innings than Billy Wagner. But you look at some of the dominance, the punch outs, Billy Wagner, leader in your clubhouse there. And look, his 2.31 ERA was the lowest out of that group. The 11.9 Ks per nine, highest. The 6 hits per nine, lowest. And the 187 ERA plus, second. It's just an absolute beast at the back end. So I'm good to see the left-hander get some love as well.
Yeah, Dustin Pedroia, career 400 hitter against Dallas Braden, by the way.
Singles.
Have to wonder if that's factoring in here.
Yeah, it was a double.
So you know these Hall of Fame voters can be very petty.
And they're biased. It's kind of like, oh, I didn't vote for Barry because he was mean to me. It's like, well, it looks like Dustin Pedroia was very mean to you, Dallas. 400.
No, I've got Kinsler slated ahead of Pedroia, and I also have Chase Utley slated ahead of both of those guys.
Yeah, that's also, someone, I know someone will say, how do you vote for Pedroia, not Kinsler? And because their numbers do look similar, but it's because I don't want to.
Is it my turn?
Yep.
All right. So we do have not controversy, but we do have a little bit of a difference here. I used all 10 spots. People I'm not going to spend an enormous amount of time highlighting because we've either done it in previous seasons or their case is well established at this point, or why you wouldn't vote for them is well established. A-Rod made my ballot. Manny Ramirez made my ballot. That's 2. I advocated for Andy Pettitte pretty staunchly last year. He's still on my ballot. That's 3. Andrew Jones is 4. His case is well laid out. One thing I did want to say about Ichiro, who obviously made my ballot as well, and if we were power ranking spots, would get my number 1 overall spot on the ballot, is that he hit 353 and had a 943 OPS in 9 seasons in Japan before he came over. I know you can't combine his hits total, but he has 4,367 total hits between the two, which is would be higher than Pete Rose's all-time hits mark total. Hank Aaron's total is 3,771, and he's in 3rd. And Derek Jeter is inside of the top 10 with 3,465. So even if you want to slice off, like 30 hits a year from what he was doing in Japan, from what he would have done here, and I'm not even sure that's appropriate given how impactful we saw him be immediately upon arrival, that he lost. Ichiro lost, quote unquote, lost some of his peak here. Like he could have been playing at an MVP caliber level years before he showed up and actually won the actual MVP here. So to me, like in a sense in my head, I'm looking at him as, well, it's not just the 3,000 hits from Major League Baseball. It's also that the man is one of the greatest hit artists in the entire history of the sport. And if we're going to appropriately honor people like Tony Gwynn and Derek Jeter and Pete Rose in different ways, then Ichiro Suzuki very much belongs in that singular conversation. And what I'm super interested to see ultimately is he the first unanimous position player? As a reminder, we've never ever had that. As of right now, he's polling at 100% per the ballot tracker. Griffey himself was left off 3. Jeter was left off 1. Ichiro is probably the best candidate for that over any upcoming period of time, I would imagine. And not necessarily the best player, but I think the best candidate to get 100% agreement. And that to me is kind of an interesting wrinkle and really potentially kind of exciting. Probably shouldn't be, but it is. Now, some guys I want to go into with a little bit more depth. So that's half my ballot. That's 5 guys. I also have CC, probably no surprise. A few stats I want to highlight here. 5 top 5 Cy Young finishes. And this is incidentally for the Hall of Fame, the longest stretch without a pitcher being elected to the Hall of Fame since 1956 to 61. The last time somebody was elected, as a reminder, is 2019. That's obviously going to come to an end with Sabathia, and appropriately so. One thing that I do think is important to really pound home with Sabathia is that this is going to probably be one of the last, obviously not including Kershaw and this next group, but like one of the last clean arguments for a pitcher to just be in the Hall of Fame, and nobody has to really debate it too much because the standards, as we've outlined, are just going to have to shift moving forward. Sabathia, 3,577 and a third innings pitched. That is the most innings pitched by any pitcher who has debuted since 1989. His 61.8 B-WAR is 10th among left-handers in baseball history. 10th. I mean, really let that sit in. I know, like, it kind of gets confusing when you throw in the right-handers in terms of his all-time placement. 10th in baseball history for left-handed pitchers, CC Sabathia. I think sometimes he's cited as a guy who's maybe doesn't have a Hall of Fame peak, but has Hall of Fame counting numbers. And I push back on that qualification as well. He's the second best pitcher in baseball from 2006 to 2012. That's a 7-season stretch behind only Halladay. And that's as measured both by B-WAR and adjusted ERA. That to me, if you are the first or second best pitcher in baseball over a 7-season stretch, you are a Hall of Famer. And Sabathia's entire case doesn't just rest on that. He's one of 3 pitchers, one of 3 left-handed pitchers all time with 3,000 strikeouts and 250 wins. The only other 2 are Steve Carlton and Roger Clemens. And the only pitcher to rack up this level of wins and strikeouts and not be in the Hall of Fame is Roger Clemens, who is obviously a case that's more complicated than Sabathia needs to be. So I obviously really enjoyed watching Sabathia pitch when he was with Cleveland. And I was happy that he got happy in my own way that he got at least the World Series recognition from 2009. And obviously the legend that the Milwaukee Brewer run added to his mystique. So well-deserved for Sabathia. That's 6. Carlos Beltran makes my ballot. To me, this should have been first ballot, but I guess we'll take it when we can get it. One of 5 players in AL/NL history with 500 doubles, 400 homers, and 300 steals.
Jay fighting for his life right now.
Sorry. I am getting better, but the others are A-Rod, Bonds, Dawson, and Willie Mays. So everybody who's got no controversy of that group is in the Hall of Fame. He has the highest career stolen base success rate for any player with 200 career steals in the last 100 plus years of baseball. And he is one of the 10 greatest postseason performers ever by OPS, and this to me is very interesting, of the 64 position players in ALNL history to reach 70 career B-WAR, all but 9 are in the Hall of Fame. Those who are not:
A-Rod,
Bonds, Palmeiro. So that's your own group there. There's 3 of them.
mm-hmm.
Pete Rose, own category. Albert Pujols, not yet eligible, will be in. Mike Trout, not yet eligible, will be in. And then Lou Whitaker and Bobby Grich, who are arguably, statistically, the 2 greatest examples of people who are outside of the Hall of Fame who belong inside of the Hall of Fame. But Carlos Beltran, I think, will get there with much less stress than the 2 of those guys have had to deal with. But Beltran, one of the great broad base of skills players that I ever saw play. And I'm glad that he's trending in a direction that suggests he's absolutely going to make the Hall of Fame, even if it's not necessarily this season. Chase Utley absolutely positively does get my vote. I think the second base ballot is fascinating. I think it's also fascinating when you consider in your head where you think of Jose Altuve in this whole conversation in a couple of years down the line. I'll get to that with a guy a little bit later. But Utley, to me, the case, here's the headline. He was the second best player in baseball by B-WAR over a 6-season stretch, 2005 to 2010, behind only Pujols. 45.5 wins above replacement over a 6-year stretch. That, to me, almost anything you accomplish outside of that run is almost gravy as far as a Hall of Fame case goes for me, because that to me suggests you are, if you're one of the greatest players in the game over that sort of run, that to me is what a Hall of Famer is all about. For Utley, the problem is that, as we've laid this out before, he just doesn't have accolades that he probably should have. He should have won an MVP. He did not. He should have defensive accolades because at his peak, he was absolutely an impact defender. He doesn't really have those defensive accolades. But Jay Jaffe, in his Fangraphs article, broke it down, and by his JAWS metric, which is a very respected metric as far as Hall of Fame candidacies goes, he would basically be, he being Utley, would be an average Hall of Famer at second base. And now that may sound damning with faint praise. That doesn't mean below average. That doesn't mean bottom 5. That means average second baseman in the Hall of Fame. Okay. So that's not lowering a standard by any means. In fact, when you want this current era of player is arguably underrepresented, not overrepresented in Hall of Fame balloting and voting, then that to me is like, okay, he's an average second baseman in the Hall of Fame. He belongs in the Hall of Fame. Chase Utley would get my vote for sure. I believe that is now 8 spots accounted for. So here's where it gets a little tricky. I'm going to stick with second base. Jared, I hope I make you happy here. I also voted for Dustin Pedroia.
It's my guy.
And I don't do it out of some misplaced sort of allegiance to Jared. I do it for a couple of statistical reasons, and I do it for a subjective reason as well. The statistical reasons. He was the best second baseman in baseball by WAR over a 6-season span. That's not the best baseball player or second best baseball player like I was talking about with Utley, but being the best at your position over a 6-season span is a meaningful thing as far as this conversation to me. Per that same JAWS system by Jay Jaffe, there are 18 second basemen in MLB history ranked above Pedroia, okay? And the only ones who are not in the Hall of Fame are Robinson Cano, who is not eligible, and statistically, I don't think he's going to get in, but statistically, Cano absolutely belongs in the Hall of Fame. Bobby Grich, who I already outlined, Lou Whitaker, who I already outlined, Chase Utley, who I obviously believe belongs in the Hall of Fame and is on this ballot, and Willie Randolph, okay, who a lot of people would say is criminally underrated in this discussion as well. So that to me clearly suggests that Pedroia is within the broad scope of Hall of Fame caliber second baseman in baseball history. Thirdly, he has a better 7-year peak B-WAR than Jose Altuve. And in my head, I'm thinking Jose Altuve is definitely going to be a Hall of Famer. So while Jose Altuve's career WAR is currently above Dustin Pedroia's and inevitably will end up above Dustin Pedroia's, if we're talking about 7-year peak, Pedroia was fractionally better than what Jose Altuve has done. And that to me is a dose of perspective in terms of how good Dustin Pedroia was. And then there's kind of like a dual subjective thing going on for my final point, which is Jared brought up the injury thing. And while I don't think you can just hand wave away injuries that impact a player's ability to produce bulk and counting stats, I do think there's something to be said for what we can point to being almost a singularly catastrophic injury that derailed a person's career. That's not a player wearing down. That's not a person breaking down 5% each year. That to me is a little bit different when we're talking about this conversation, because a lot of people will point to Kinsler and say, well, if you're going to vote for Pedroia, wouldn't you vote for Kinsler? They were about equally valuable over the course of their careers by wins above replacement, bulk-wise. Except Ian Kinsler had, I believe, 1,000 or so additional plate appearances, possibly more than that, to work off of from Dustin Pedroia. To me, Dustin Pedroia was, at his peak, not only one of the best players in baseball, but while stars today are arguably a little sexier, Dustin Pedroia was one of the most popular and important players in baseball at his peak. He has a great track record of winning that enhances this conversation, I think, as well, in terms of postseason performance. But I would vote for Dustin Pedroia, and I would kick Ian Kinsler's candidacy to a future conversation, but not one that I'm definitely going to write off. And then I only have one more spot, unfortunately, because there are lots of people that I would like to include I'm not going to be able to. But that last spot I have reserved for somebody who made Dallas's ballot but did not make Jared's, which is Felix Hernandez. And I am willing to acknowledge on some level that there is an emotional element to me voting for Felix or wanting to put forth the positive side of his candidacy, because he was one of my very, very favorite players to watch pitch. His peak coincided with me, quote unquote, starting out as a professional and one that was lucky enough to be in the sports industry for the entirety of King Felix's run. That was fun. And I also think that as we evaluate starting pitchers moving forward, as we've outlined many times on this podcast, the standard is simply going to have to change. And while we may be uncomfortable with electing Felix Hernandez right now, I think in 8 years, we're going to feel much differently about where his candidacy stands and people emerging onto the ballot. And I think that we might as well get the work done now. And it's all about peak for me. Obviously, he has basically no traditional case for the Hall of Fame.
Better than Pettit, better than Burley.
Yeah, I mean, his peak is unquestionably better than those guys. I have Andy Pettit on here, so I don't feel like I'm being hypocritical and leaving one off versus the other. But as I've outlined previous times, King Felix was the best pitcher by wins above replacement from 2008 to 14. That's a 7-year run. The only other pitchers who have, in the wild card era, who have led baseball over any 7-year stretch are Randy, Pedro, Halladay, Johan, who I have advocated for before, Justin Verlander, Kershaw, Scherzer, and Zach Wheeler. And I think every one of those people, save Johan, is going to end up in the Hall of Fame, and probably in some cases, overwhelmingly so. So we have peak value. Mike Petriello went a little further and said, since 1950, there have been 19 pitchers who were the best pitchers in the sport across a 10-year span, which is true of Felix, 2005 to 14. 13 of those 19 are in the Hall of Fame. 2 will be in Scherzer and Kershaw. And the 4 who are not in are Roger Clemens, King Felix, Ron Guidry, and Dave Stieb. And you can certainly make compelling cases as to why Ron Guidry and or Dave Stieb should be in the Hall of Fame. That's for a different time. I'm concerned about Felix Hernandez. Let me reiterate what I just outlined. Whether you want to use a 7-year run or a 10-year run, Felix Hernandez was the best pitcher in Major League Baseball. If we can't elect a guy who was the best pitcher over a 7 or 10 year run to the Hall of Fame, after the Kershaw, Scherzer, Greinke, Verlander foursome, we may never elect a pitcher to the Hall of Fame again. If that's the standard, because Garrett Cole doesn't even meet that standard right now.
Well, some of the numbers that we're talking about, like the wins and the strikeout total for CC, like those are numbers that you have to stop even thinking about. Like you're just not going to get there. You're not going to be allowed to. The game is played very differently. How we look at those old numbers from back in the 1800s and just what? Like Cy Young's number, like that's how we're going to look at these numbers. Like those are unattainable. We don't play the game that way anymore. Like you can't get there.
Well, and to that point, the only ALNL pitchers who weren't closers with fewer than 170 wins and fewer than 2,800 innings pitched that have made the Hall of Fame, there's two of them. Dizzy Dean and Sandy Koufax. Okay? So this would be
21. How many pitchers are in the Hall of Fame?
This would be, I have no idea off the top of my head. This would be precedent setting in a lot of ways, but I also think it's precedent setting in a way that's going to be meaningful moving forward and probably the direction that we need to head if this is a position that we're interested in honoring. He was the 12th best by B-WAR through age 29 in modern baseball history. So I know that he basically accomplished nothing after that point in terms of advancing his Hall of Fame case. I know that he's got no postseason track record to fall back on. That is obviously, in my opinion, not his fault, but it is the truth. But when you're talking about a guy who was one of the 12 greatest pitchers ever through age 29, and a pitcher who was inarguably one of either the number one or the number two pitcher in the sport for a decade-long stretch, that to me, it doesn't sound right. I've laid out the numbers. It doesn't sound right that wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. And for me, that's why Felix grabs my proverbial, not really my last spot, but my last spot. And then that means that I cannot make room for Billy Wagner. I cannot make room for Bobby Abreu. And I cannot make room for Jimmy Rollins, David Wright, or Mark Burley, or Ian Kinsler, all guys whose candidacies I will continue to evaluate moving forward. Wagner's obviously the surprise there. I would like to say before the onslaught of, why the fuck isn't Billy Wagner on your ballot? If I'm comparing Billy Wagner to like the Kimbrel, Jansen, Aroldis Chapman era of closer that we're going to have to deal with on the ballot in the future, Billy Wagner is getting my vote before each and every one of those guys. So, and it's not even close as far as I'm concerned in that regard. So I am not against necessarily Billy Wagner making the ballot. I'm just choosing to spend my time on Felix Hernandez, who, had something close to 3 times the number of innings for his career that Billy Wagner did.
So no consideration for Wagner. Isn't this his last year on the ballot?
Well, I think Billy Wagner is going to make the actual Hall of Fame. I'm not playing ballot games here because we're not dealing with those actual restrictions. But if I had to gamify the system, I would consider putting Billy Wagner on. But he's not a candidate. He's not a guy whose candidacy I feel strongly about. But I'm also not blind to the fact that inferior relievers are going to make the Hall of Fame. And at that point, you would then want Billy Wagner probably in the Hall of Fame. So it's complicated. But
he's got 100 plus more saves than 5 of these guys. Than Raleigh, Goose, Suter, Hoyt.
But but he's behind Kimbrel and Jansen. You know what I mean? And so it is interesting about what his induction says about the standards moving forward. But Billy Wagner's ERA is better than those guys. His adjusted ERA is much, much better than those guys when factoring in context. So wins above replacement for whatever value you place on that for relief pitchers, better than those guys.
Out of all those relievers I mentioned, Jay, the 187 ERA plus, like I said, is second to Mo.
Yeah.
Second to Mariano Rivera. And the 651 saves or whatever. Trevor Hoffman and his 601. And then you got two guys who have 400 plus saves. Billy Wagner's one of them. And then you got a whole host of other Hall of Fame relievers who have 300 saves. It's tough for me to look at a Hall of Fame and see Billy Wagner's name not on that list.
I respect
not
that.
In the Hall of Fame.
I just I've outlined 10 guys to get to this point, and there's not a single one of those guys, unless you're just going to remove PED guys as a blanket policy, but we all know how fraught that is. I don't see, I can't in good conscience say that I would have rather had Billy Wagner's career than I would have rather had Felix Hernandez's or Andy Pettit's or something like that, or certainly not CC Sabathia's. And if you want to try and compare a relief pitcher to a second baseman, I personally would rather have the MVP winning, MVP caliber second baseman in Dustin Pedroia's career, abbreviated though it might have been, than Billy Wagner's. That's how I view these players relative to each other.
Yeah, I'm viewing just context, comparatively speaking to the relievers that are in the Hall. Not just
he has to be in the Hall of Fame. He has to be in the Hall of Fame if there's going to be any modern relievers in the Hall of Fame. All I'm saying is that in this 10 ballot exercise, or 10 person exercise, I just think there are objectively more deserving people.
That's fair. I just in this fake ballot exercise, I weigh that. If it's their last year, then I'm not going to not. Yeah.
He's going to get in. He's polling at 85, 86% right now, I think I saw. So
yeah, if what's King Felix polling at?
Felix is currently at 26%.
Ooh. See, and as irritating as it might be to think about the ballot games, I think there is, and I talked about this last year, because last year that's kind of how I did it. And I wanted to do it that way so that I could, because I've spent a lifetime absolutely crushing the people who don't fill out 10 spots, or the people who will vote for just one name, because that's the hill I'm going to die on. I've got so many questions about all these other, it's like, you probably could have found other candidates. You just chose to take this stand. And if that's the case, then I want to view it through that lens as well. And I wanted to feel what that exercise is like. So the idea of not having a Kinsler, not having a Pedroia on the ballot this time around would allow you to feel good about putting Chase Utley on your ballot, because you know these guys are going to have opportunities next year. If I can get Utley in now, buddy, Kinsler, Pedroia, you'll have that vote from me for the next 9 years. You got it. I've got to do my due diligence here, and I got to get the guys who should be in. I got to get them in. So it's not that you're not good. It's that not right now.
So the slight, I agree with that. The slight pushback I would say is that if you were, depending on when you were filling out the ballot and what was known at the time, you could have been putting a name, a check next to a Pedroia or a Felix, hoping that they reach the 5% line to stay on the ballot. It looks like that's going to happen now.
Yeah.
But Pedroia is only polling at 11.5% right now. And so that you would want to protect him from that, as opposed to, how do you weigh that against making sure that Billy Wagner, who it feels like is an inevitability given polling tendencies, gets in? I don't know. But just so everybody knows what we know, here's the update as of 6:47 Pacific time on the BB Hall of Fame tracker. Ichiro at 100%, CC at 89.4, Wagner at 85.6. So those seem like clear cut, definitely going to make it, guys. Beltran at 76, Andrew Jones at 73, Utley at 51. I would say we're very much shaping up to have a 3-person ballot then, with Ichiro, Sabathia, and Wagner as the Hall of Fame class this year. Because if Beltran's polling at 76 on publicly known ballots, that number tends to come down when everything's revealed. But that's a hugely encouraging trend, I think, for him. You basically can't get as high as he is right now and not eventually make the Hall of Fame.
We'll keep an eye on it. We'll keep an eye periodically going through the shout out to not Mr. Tibbs. He's the individual who.
Yeah, that's where all the info's coming. Sorry.
Yeah. Not Mr. Tibbs. He's one of my favorite people in baseball circles, because he, I believe, is not affiliated with any baseball outlet. Like, he just does this for the love of the game. He's been doing it forever, and he takes the time to count up all the ballots and let everyone know what all the public figures look like. And he very politely turned down the opportunity to come on the podcast many years ago. He doesn't do interviews. He just does it for the love of the game. The guy just loves Hall of Fame balloting. It's great because it is a tool that baseball fans use this time of year. Like, you want to know where are your guys at, and
it's like industry standard now.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool actually to see how far it's come.
Right. Yeah, it's very cool. But he doesn't want any recognition for it. He doesn't want to speak on it. He doesn't give his opinions. Like, he's not some crazed fan that will start screaming about his guy not getting in or whatever, just for the love of the game. So shout out to not Mr. Tibbs. We were going to do Joey's TikTok segment here, but he is not here with us because his internet got fucked by the storm.
He's in a blizzard.
Yep, that's unfortunate. So we'll do it next time. Anyways, do you guys have any final thoughts?
I'd like to pose my final thought as a question.
Yeah, sure.
Do you guys think Ichiro gets 100% of the vote?
I don't.
Nope. Yeah, I think there's going to be
how many numbers? I don't remember what number we're operating
one
off
ballot.
of. You think it's one?
One ballot. I think it's going to be one person.
He gets jetered.
I think it's more than that.
Do you really?
There's going to be some dildo that's like, his career OPS is in the 700s. He's a singles hitter. Blah blah blah. Like, he's definitely not getting 100. I don't think.
So the highest vote totals in baseball history are obviously Mariano at 100%, Derek Jeter at 99.7%, Ken Griffey Jr. at 99.3%, and I believe it's Cal Ripken Jr. is number 4. No, Tom Seaver at 98.8, Nolan Ryan at 98.8 as a tie, and then Cal at 98.5. If you want to be optimistic about it, what I see there is that the 3 highest vote totals in baseball history have all happened since 2016.
Well, besides Seaver.
No. Griffey, Mariano, and Jeter.
Oh, I thought you said 6.
Oh, no. Sorry, I said the 3 highest
Okay.
have happened since 2016. And like, that to me suggests like maybe we're closer to this happening than, voter goof off pessimism would lead you to believe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong. It was just kind of the thought that was kicking around in my head after the Hall of Fame conversation.
It's just hard to think about Ichiro and anything that he's done in his career that would leave a bad taste in your mouth or leave you questioning his contributions.
Yeah, because everybody's on the same page that he's in the Hall of Fame, even on the strength of just his quote unquote, just his major league career, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's debating that. That's not anything. Nobody cares that he hung on for like 8 years too, quote unquote, too long or whatever, and wasn't necessarily a great player for an entire, there was like a Pujols stretch of his career, right? Where
the Yankees version of Ichiro.
Yeah. But like nobody really seemed to hold that against him in the same way, maybe because he was never operating on one of those $250 or $300 million contracts. But nobody seemed to hold that against him. He was almost more of like a fun carnival act in a way, in a way that I don't think Pujols got the benefit of the doubt with that, or some of these other players. I don't even think Miggy got the benefit of the doubt of it towards the back end.
No.
And if Ichiro's not 100%, like who is? Because you could say, well, it's not that big of a deal because Miggy and Pujols are coming up and everybody thinks they're better players overall than Ichiro. Maybe, but like, you don't think somebody's going to hold like the bullshit rumors or whatever that have been floating around Albert Pujols against him for his entire career? Like nobody's going to abstain on that regard.
Mm-hmm. And
100% are voting for Miggy. 100%.
There are people who also said like Ichiro, at times, like, he was, even if the game situation called for maybe a little bit of a different approach, like Ichiro was there to get his hits. That's what he was doing. He was there to get his hits. And I always pushed back and thought to myself, well, If he's getting a hit and he's getting on base, isn't that kind of
That sounds like what I want too, right?
doing what we're trying to do? I don't know.
People, I heard whispers about that, about Frank Thomas in the ESPN green room at times too. And my personal reaction was like, I don't give a fuck. I was like, if the dude's hitting 340, what the hell do you want? Like,
what do you want him to do?
This is baseball, you know?
Yeah. I'm with you. I am with you.
Accumulate all of the stats you can, please.
I've always like the compiler argument has always been, I say to myself, you realize you have to be good to be able to play that long. And your argument is that they're not that good and they're still playing. And my argument, my pushback is, well, they got to be kind of good because they're still playing and those numbers are still going to count.
Anyway, that was my final thought. Thanks for indulging.
Of course. Jake's takes.
Just one more shout out to Brian Fitzpatrick. Huge playoff run coming up. So can't wait to see how that plays out.
Tampa legend.
Did the Bucks make the playoffs?
They did.
Oh, hell yeah. Let's go, Fitz. Fitz Magic, baby.
Yep, behind Baker, Brian Fitzmagic, Mayfield.
Is he the quarterback of the Bucks?
Yes.
What's his name again? It's
Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield. Yes. State Farm.
Yep. Wasn't good enough for the Browns. Now leading the Bucks to yet another playoff performance.
Wow.
While the Browns are fucked.
Mm-hmm. I met the Bengals guy, Joe Burrow.
Oh yeah, he's a good one. He's not going to the playoffs though. Maybe the greatest quarterback season ever to not end up in the playoffs.
Yeah. See, I've met a few of the boys. You know.
Yeah. He's probably finished like third or fourth in the MVP this year.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It was right after
was
he
a hell
won
of a,
the national championship with LSU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the greatest quarterback seasons in college football history.
Yeah, right there with Tim Tebow.
Yeah. Accomplished in different ways for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. We'll be recording on Wednesday this week.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Is everything okay?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I hope so.
Oh, I just didn't. Your look made me question.
Well, I'm getting surgery on Thursday, so that's why we're recording on Wednesday. So I don't know what shape I'm going to be in next week. I could be all fucked up on drugs.
You're having surgery on Thursday?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why we're recording on Wednesday.
That's why we're recording on Wednesday this week.
Well, I hope everything goes okay. I mean, we'll talk about
too.
it on Wednesday. But
yeah, I specifically told my dad to take my phone from me because when I got my wisdom teeth out in 2008, this was like kind of before social media, but I just was texting my boss like gibberish, like just words that didn't exist, was like texting him this. And I was like, now that I have a platform, we don't need to unlock my subconscious to the world. Like, I don't know what, after that experience, I don't trust myself. So
yeah, brand management.
Yeah. I was like, don't give it back to me until like tomorrow. So if I'm not tweeting on Thursday, if there's a, Sasaki signs or something, Bregman sign, something goes down.
Dude, we got your back, man.
Yeah. That's literally, I'm not even worried about like the pain. I'm worried about like, please don't tweet anything with anesthesia brain. That's the only thing I'm worried about.
Yeah.
Your dad's got you.
Yeah, he's got me. All right. We'll be back on Wednesday for some more Baseball is Dead. Of course, as always, if news breaks, we'll have the emergency pods ready to roll out. But if not, we'll see you on Wednesday.
We out.